So good morning. So we'll go with the next topic, that is nothing but genome sequencing strategies. Okay. So in the previous session, we have learned how to generate a chromosome map. Okay. And the continuation of that, today we learn how to generate a sequence map for a chromosome. And for that, we'll be using genome sequencing strategies. Okay. So before getting into that, I said, I asked you to go through the previous lectures, notes, and videos and tell me if any doubts are there. So have you gone through them, all of you? Yes or no? No?
No, sir. Yes, sir.
So very soon we'll be having your first mid exam. I think I gave you the dates also in the schedule. So be prepared. I'm just giving you the PPTs. Once the class is finished, refer them. Don't wait till the last minute. And there will be a lot of assignments, not only a Coursera. I ask you people to actually register for Coursera and give me the information saying that you have registered. None of you have given me that. Why? How many of you have registered? Please raise your hands. How many of you have registered? I have seen only 4 participants. That's all. 31 are there. How many of you have registered? See, I would like to see the list of all the persons by today evening. If you have any technical problem, please contact Vasudev sir for that. Okay? If you have any technical problem, contact. And if you are stuck anywhere regarding the Coursera, okay, you can contact me, or if it's technical, contact Vasudev sir. And I would like you to finish it before time. Don't wait till the last minute. Clear? Because that assignment, at the same time, more assignments will also be given. Okay, you have to answer them, and the consolidated marks I'll be taking. Clear? So do it on time. So I would like to see all your 31 persons saying in the group that you have registered for Coursera. Write your roll number and say that you have registered, each person. Clear? I don't want the names because still I'm not aware of all of you. Just give your roll number and say that whether you're registered or not. So if you're not registered, contact sir. Clear in this aspect?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So now we'll move into our today's session, that is how to generate a sequence map using different genome sequencing strategies. Okay. So I'll share it. Okay, so we have seen that there are different techniques which they use for mapping the chromosomes, and at the same time, now we'll see what are the different techniques which are used for sequencing, generating a sequence map, and for that, generating a sequence map, we have two different. Shortened genome sequencing. So, Balaji, what is your question?
No, sir, I didn't ask anything.
You raised your hand.
I forgot to put it down, sir.
Okay, okay. It's not a problem. Okay. So the contents for today's session, you can see here, it's introduction, object of the session, then principal methods for fragmentation of sequencing, then different genome sequencing strategies. Then the first one we learn is first methodology which was implemented is shotgun genome sequencing strategy. And second method what we have is hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. And we have a third aspect which is known as a high throughput genome sequencing strategy and summary. Okay, so these are the contents which are to be covered. Now, coming to introduction, you can see here any genome sequencing strategy which is used to generate a sequence map is having three important steps. Okay, is having three important steps. The first step is to generate fragments from genome. That is, you take a genome, that's your DNA, break them into small pieces. That is the first part. Okay, generation of fragments from genome of the organism. So very important thing is take the genome, break them. Second step is take each of the fragment and clone them by using appropriate vectors. Okay, by using appropriate vectors. That's the second step. And third one is once you clone them in the vectors, take that clone and sequence them by using the DNA sequencing method. DNA sequencing method can be a Sanger sequencing method or a maximum Gilbert sequencing method. These are the two methods which were earlier used for sequencing. Okay, so we have three steps you should know that in genome sequencing strategies. That is, the first step is generation of fragments from genome of the organism, cloning of generated fragments in the appropriate vectors, then sequencing clones of using a chain termination method of DNA sequencing or Sanger sequencing, or in olden days, it is maximum Gilbert method. Okay, so this is what generally a genome sequencing strategy has. Okay, so the objective of today's session is to discuss in detail about different genome sequencing strategies. So what are the different methods what we have? So you can see here there are two principal methods what we have for fragmentation and sequencing process. Okay, the first one is sequencing faster using random thing. So what we do is we randomly break the fragments, and those fragments are cloned and sequenced. That procedure is done randomly. Okay, that is method which is known as shotgun. And this method is actually a complex process and a little bit faster, but a little bit faster. This was a method which was used earlier for sequencing. Okay, and second method is systematic sequencing, where we use chromosome walking or primer walking, and through the progress through the entire strand piece by piece. And we call it as hierarchical genome sequencing. This is systematic, but a little bit slower. Okay, little bit slower. These are the two principal methods what we have. First one, which is sequencing faster by random method. Second one, which is sequencing systematically by piece, but which is a little bit slower. But this will give you a complete chromosome map. Sorry, a complete sequence map. Okay, so these are the two principal methods for fragmentation and sequencing. So now based on these two, there are three methods which are there, which are available for us. First one, what we call is shotgun genome sequencing strategy. Okay. Second one is nothing but hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. And third one is nothing but high throughput genome sequencing strategy. Okay. So these are the three methods. Now see what is each one and how we can apply here this method for generating a sequence map. Okay. So first remember that for any of these things we have three steps: fragmentation, then cloning, and then sequencing. This is the order for generating any genome sequence map. Okay, so first see how we are doing each step. The only thing is the approach for doing these three steps is different, but these three steps are followed in both shotgun and in hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. Okay. So now what is a shotgun? Shotgun is nothing but take the fragments randomly. Short. We don't know where you are doing it. We don't know exact position. We don't know how we are doing it. We don't have any approach. But the only thing is just take a shot. That means take a chance to break it. And that's why we call it as random sequencing again. Take a shot. That is what is known as shotgun. Okay. Shotgun sequencing method is used for sequencing random DNA strands. That's the first step we have to do. And this is actually known as quasi-random. What do you mean by quasi? Anyone? Any idea?
No, sir.
Okay. I think most of you people will be playing some games. I think both boys and girls are. Sometimes you will be playing some games. You might have played some games related to Battleground or PUBG or anything that's related to them. So there, you shoot it randomly, but you have an aim of shooting them, isn't it? While playing them. So if you just without viewing, closing your eyes and randomly shooting means that becomes random. That's all. When you're trying to aim, okay, to aim and shoot, but not in order. You just aim a person who is coming random in the thing. So what you're trying to do is you're shooting. So when you're doing that type is known as quasi-random. Quasi means partial. Okay. So when there are certain organizations in the government which are known as quasi, they're public at the same time they are private. Okay. So those type of things is quasi thing. So now here a quasi-random pattern of breaking the pieces is followed here. You break the thing and you try to see where they are. That's why it's known as quasi-random. Okay. Now, okay. So breaking it and now what is the first step here? So shotgun sequencing actually follows a very systematic method, nothing but it tries to sequence one by one, okay, and we do a full sequencing. So this what happens here is we are able to sequence the full genome completely with one of the precursor technologies. Okay, so earlier here the meaning of the entire sentence here is nothing but we used to have a primitive technology sequencing, but this primitive technology also has made us to sequence the entire genome. That's the meaning of this. Okay, so shotgun genome sequencing, one of the precursor technologies, that was responsible for enabling full genome sequencing. Okay, like I said, any genome sequencing strategy will have 3 steps. First step is randomly generating fragments from genome of the organism. Second step is cloning of the randomly generated fragments in the appropriate vectors, and sequencing clones or subclones using chain termination method. So remember here, why calling as clones or subclones? You'll see the steps there. What are the clones and what are the subclones, and why are we sequencing? Okay, so you can see here, we are randomly generating, cloning the randomly generated fragments, and sequencing the clones or subclones which are randomly generated. Okay, so these are the 3 steps what we have in genome sequencing. Okay, so what do we have here? So generally, this is how the sequences are done. So you can see here, I have given you first one, it is original, second one is first shotgun genome sequence, second shotgun, and reconstruction. So what you have to remember is, it's just not a process of doing thing. So first we generate it, then we do shaping of it. Finish, we call it as finishing. So for any work, you have a thing that you work a lot, take a shape, get out all the content, and then you give a finishing touch to the work, and then your work is done. Same way, this also has a thing. So this is actually supposed to be the genome, which we don't know, which is present in the DNA strand or in the chromosome. Okay, this is the first shotgun sequences which was generated. You can see here. This is one fragment, 5' to 3'. This is second fragment, 3' to 5'. Now, this is the second sequence which was generated. And second time also we have done the sequence. Okay, first fragment from 5' to 3', second fragment from 3' to 5'. Now, what we have done is we reconstructed. So we have used first sequence, first shotgun sequence, then second shotgun sequence, and then we have reconstructed. That means we have got all the sequence. So when you see the reconstruction data which we got and the original, you see almost it is same. But the data which is used here, we have generated 2 random genome sequencing steps. Okay, so it is not just you take a genome, then you sequence it and you get a sequence at one step. It is a process which is done. While I'm saying that it is done in one step, but in lab what you do, practically, it will be a different way. We have to do a lot of finishing touches and then say that the genome is complete. Okay, so we have a lot of background work to do and complete it. So this is about the genome sequencing, and this is the example of actually practically we do it. So what is the first step I'm saying? Randomly generate fragments from genome of the organism. So you know that genomic DNA, when we look, it will be like this, abstractly. So what we do is actually, if you have done the I think, do you have a molecular biology paper? Molecular biology paper? Have you completed your molecular biology paper? Yes or no? Give the response. No?
No, sir.
Is it next semester for you people? Then? But the paper is there for you. Okay. So if we go through different techniques of generating the fragments randomly, we use, generally there are 2 different techniques. Take a DNA, isolated DNA, take it in the tube, assume that this is the test tube and you're having it, okay? Take this, just randomly do like this, pressure. That means shake it, then you'll have a mechanical pressure. And when you have a mechanical pressure and the DNA breaks, because imagine, I think most of you people might have played in your childhood with the thread, what we say that, Wine rhyme, that is, okay, thread which is rounded there. So when you open it completely, what happens? If it is not in proper order, does it break? I mean, the thread breaks here and there.
Yes, sir.
Whatever thread we have used, why it is breaking? Because the simple principle here is when something is not in order and a pressure is applied, that is a simple mechanical pressure, which is long. There is a pressure, it places somewhere in the thread, and that tends to break. The same principle applies here. Our genome is just a long DNA strand, and once it is opened completely, it's not in order, then it can break easily when you apply some pressure. Okay, the same principle applies here. And when we are applying the mechanical pressure, the DNA fragments will break. So we have taken a genomic DNA and we applied a mechanical pressure, then our DNA break. This is one way. What is the other way of generating the DNA fragments? Any idea? The other way of generating the DNA fragments is nothing but use a restriction nucleus, restriction endonuclease, which is known as RE. Okay. Yesterday, I have given you an example in the previous session about 3 restriction endonucleases, NOT1, BAMH1, SAU3A1. Isn't it? So, those are the restriction enzymes. So, when you apply those restriction enzymes, the restriction enzyme will digest DNA fragment. Again, they'll generate these fragments, this DNA fragment. So, you can use those two. Okay. What are they? Mechanical shearing. Just take in the test tube, I mean the long tubes which are there for DNA isolation. Just apply pressure like this, then it will break. Or second one is take a DNA strand, use a DNA restriction enzyme, and digest it. You'll get different fragments. Any of the two methods. But thing here is we take a genome DNA, apply the pressure, mechanical or restriction, biological pressure, then break them. Okay. So we have broke down now into pieces. Now, what do we do? So the simple thing here is at different stages we use different. Okay, why we use different stages, different things? Okay, for example, what is the size of the human genome? Mahalakshmi.
Sir,
What is the size of the human genome?
sir, I didn't get you, sir.
What is the size of the human genome in bases? Yes, pass.
Sir,
Yes.
like, so you want the so like number?
Yeah, how many bases are there? That's a standard question you have to remember very well.
So
Four bases,
3.2 into 10 power something. 2 into
Sir.
10 power.
32 billion base pairs, sir.
Yes, sir.
32 billion.
3
Not
billion,
32
sir.
billion. It's
3 billion.
Yes.
3.2,
3.2 billion.
Yes, sir.
0.2.
Yes. 3.2 billion bases are there. Isn't it? That means billion bases are there means you will get a sequence when you break it into randomly, some big fragments will be generated. Those cannot be sequenced directly because the limit for sequencing a genome DNA fragment is nothing but maximum 600 bases only we can sequence using the machine without error. I'm talking without error. With error, we can do it up to 30,000 base pairs. We can sequence it, but an error will be there, and we can't rely on that error because when we are handling a large project, it's a difficult task. So what we have to do is we should sequence only a 600 base pairs. Now imagine we have this much 3.2 billion space, and you want to sequence.
Sir, you're not audible, sir.
How many fragments you have to generate? Okay, leave it. One thing is sure. Whatever fragments which are generated will be bigger than the 600 base pairs. Isn't it? Is it clear?
Sir,
Whatever
we lost
fragments
the
they
connection
generate.
in between, sir.
Who is that? Who is talking?
Sir, could you repeat the previous point? You are not audible, sir.
See, whatever fragment which is generated, which can be sequenced only if it is 600 base pairs. That means whatever fragment which is generated will be larger than 600 base pairs. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
So fragments which are generated they are larger than 600 base pairs. That means whatever larger fragments we have, they are nothing but large. So we use some fragments to sequence and order. So the last thing vector what we have is 600 base pairs is nothing but a plasmid vector. And when you want to sequence the larger fragments, we use a larger vector. So we know that we have how many chromosomes we have?
20.
How many chromosomes we have?
23 pairs, sir.
23 pairs. That means each chromosome is itself a larger fragment. So when you want to clone them, you have to have a vector which is larger of size. That's why we use back clone vectors. Okay, bacterial artificial chromosome, known as back library. Okay, so what the first step what we do is we take those fragments which are randomly generated in the previous step and clone them in black. Okay, bacterial artificial chromosome. The other things are also there apart from back, which can handle that much. The second order is nothing but YAC, yeast artificial chromosome. Okay, first one which is randomly used now for genome sequencing and established is bacterial artificial chromosome, which is known as BAC. The second one which is also used are known as yeast artificial chromosomes. And the third one is known as PAC, okay, phasmid artificial chromosomes. So we have BACs, we have YACs, and we have PACs. So you can use any of them based on your size. So when coming to eukaryotes, we try to sequence using YACs. When we go with the lower organism, we use BAC. And randomly for eukaryotes also we use PACs. So when you want to generate a larger fragments, we go with cloning in this order. Okay, in this side. So first we make a back library, then we make a plasmid library, and then we make a plasmid library, and then we sequence them. Okay, and then we sequence them. Okay, so what we're doing is we are cloning them until they can be sequenced in different size vectors. So the first step is take a fragment which is sequenced, generated randomly in the previous step, clone them in back each fragment. So see, I have taken only one fragment here. We can see here properly, one fragment is taken and cloned. So this fragment is this backbone. So each fragment will be as one backbone. Okay. Now we take one backbone from each library. Okay. Then you can see here. So this backbone is taken and this backbone is subjected to preparation of cosmed clones. That is, we take that again, we break them into smaller pieces and clone in cosmeds. And then a library is prepared, which is known as cosmed library. Okay. Then the third step, we take one cosmed clone, one clone of cosmed from this library, and then take that cosmed, break them into smaller pieces, and then prepare a library in the vectors, nothing but plasmids. And that is known as plasmid library. Okay. So this step is nothing but cloning of the randomly generated fragments in an appropriate vectors based on the size. Use a back clone or cosmed clones or a cosmed vector, back vector, cosmed vector or plasmid vector, and prepare the libraries. Then whatever fragment what we get in plasmid vector, plasmid library, they are subjected to sequencing. Okay. So the next step here is so what are shown in the pictorial representation. I'm just going to them here. So you can see here, cloning is performed by using three different libraries. First step is generation of back library from random fragments. And step 2 is generation of plasmid library from each back clone. Okay. And step 2.3, generation of plasmid 1, okay, or bacteriophage library. We can use plasmid or bacteriophage, anything. Generally, M13 is used here, okay, or plasmid. Right? So generation of plasmid or bacteriophage library from each plasmid clone. Then each random fragment is cloned in a back vector. So first step I'm saying. So these library of back clones are known as back library in general. So what do you do here? We take one back clone, library is mapped with restriction enzymes. So one clone is taken, they are mapped with restriction enzymes. Then each is treated with restriction enzymes to generate fragments. Then each fragment is cloned in a cosmed vector. And this library of cosmed clones are known as cosmed library. Okay. Now, generation of plasmid or bacteriophage library from each cosmed clone. So each cosmed clone in cosmed library is mapped with restriction enzyme again. Then cosmed clone is treated with the restriction enzymes. Then each fragment is then cloned in plasmid or bacteriophage vectors. And this library is of plasmid or bacteriophage known as plasmid or bacteriophage libraries. Okay, so these are the steps in between what we do. Now what we do, from the plasmid library, take each sequence library, then clone it using Sanger sequencing method or chain termination. Then we get a sequence here. Okay, this is what we do. Now, see here, this is the whole thing. So take a genome DNA, we mechanically shear the DNA, we get random fragments. Then those random fragments take each fragment, clone it in a back, generate a back library when you do for all the clones. Okay. Then take one clone from the back library and then clone it in a cosmeds and prepare a plasmid library. Then take each cosmid clone and clone it in plasmids. Okay. Then it's known as plasmid library. Then take each sequence from clone from the library and sequence them. So this is the whole summary of the shotgun genome sequencing. Okay, is it clear?
Yes, sir.
So this is what we are trying to do, genome sequencing. Okay. Now can anyone guess or tell me what is the disadvantage with this method?
Sir, like finalizing fragments if they belong to the same sequence or not.
Rearrangement will be problem, sir.
Yes. So whatever sequence we get, see, we can trace back each sequence here. See sequence clone here, we are tracing it to Plasmid library. Now Plasmid library clones, each clone can be traced back to Plasmid. Each Cosmid can be traced back to back. But back library is not traced back to original genome. And this is what has happened. The same thing has happened when genome sequencing was done for human genome. And this is where it was done. Genome sequencing was done in a short time, but reverse mapping, tracing back into the original and assembling the human genome was not possible this short time. And this is how the limitation of this actually developed a new method which is known as hierarchical genome sequencing, which was used, and that is known as hierarchical. And this was actually developed by a new person who was actually a person who has participated in this project, human genome sequencing, and he is nothing but a Craig Venter. Okay, Craig Venter. He is the person who actually sequenced this. Was also a part of the whole genome sequencing of human genome. Okay, but he quitted and he developed a new method which is known as hierarchical genome sequencing. And then with the hierarchical genome sequencing, whatever it took, whatever struggles, I mean, the genome sequencing was done within 3 years, but assembly they were not able to do even after 8 years. Still they were struggling. But a person who is part of this group, Craig Venter, he quitted this group. Again, he formed a new group and he started sequencing the genome, and he successfully assembled the whole genome within 1 year. So 1 year to sequence and 1 year to assemble, and within 2 years, he was able to get the complete genome sequence. And that is how the new method was developed, which is known as hierarchical genome sequencing. Okay, so this is the limitation what we have, and with this limitation, a new method has come out, and that is how now we are able to sequence all the genomes within a short time, assemble back with. So hierarchical genome sequence actually helped, but shotgun genome sequence actually helped us to visualize that we can sequence the genome even if it's larger pieces. Okay, clear? So I'll be stopping here, the section here, and we'll continue in the next class about hierarchical genome sequencing, and then we'll see what the inputs which are required for hierarchical and how they have done it. Okay, is it clear? So any doubts in this shortcut genome sequencing strategy? No doubts? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll stop here and we'll in the next class, and we'll continue with hierarchical genome sequencing strategies. Okay? Okay then? Bye.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you,
Have a
sir.
nice day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. So in the previous class, we have seen about shotgun genome sequencing strategy. Okay, and now we will first summarize what we have learned in shotgun genome sequencing strategy, and then we'll continue with the next methodology or strategy, that is nothing but hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. Okay, so let us see what is actually shotgun genome sequencing. So we have a linear long genomic DNA which is isolated, and that isolated long linear DNA will be broken down into smaller pieces by mechanical shearing. Okay, we apply a mechanical pressure so that the long linear DNA will be broken into several fragments, which are of random sizes and short fragments when compared to the previous genome. Okay, then once the different sizes of random fragments are generated, we take each fragment and then clone in a back, that is bacterial artificial chromosome vector. So once all the fragments which are generated, they are cloned in back vectors, then this whole library of clones is known as back library. Okay, back library. Now we take one back library and again we first generate a restriction map and then break down the fragment into smaller pieces using restriction enzyme. Then map the restriction fragments with the restriction previous back clone, and then all the fragments are cloned in Cosmet. And as all the fragments are cloned in Cosmet, they are known as Cosmet library. So now you can see for each of the back clone, there are several Cosmet libraries which is generated for each of the back clone. Okay. Now from one of the Cosmet clone, so this is the Cosmet library. From this Cosmet clone, we'll be taking one clone and we'll again repeat the same procedure, that is we map with the restriction enzymes, we treat with the restriction enzymes to generate fragments, and then we clone the fragments in a plasmid. And so as the made up of plasmid clones, now this whole library is known as plasmid library. So this each clone in the plasmid library is then subjected to sequencing, DNA sequencing, either by Sanger's method or by Maxwell-Gilbert method. That is the initial way. But now only Sanger's method is used for sequencing each clone. Okay. So in this way, we are able to generate random different fragments and then get the sequence. So as this is done randomly, this is known as shotgun genome sequence. Okay.
Sir,
And we
one
said that yes,
doubt, sir.
yeah,
Yeah, sir. When we want to convert genomic, like when we want to break down genomic DNA, we use mechanical pressure, no, sir.
yes.
Then, sir, then what about converting, like converting from BAC clone to Cosmic clone? What method do we use to break it down, sir?
Restriction enzyme. That's what I'm saying. No, there are three steps. When you do it from back clone to plasmid, and at the same time from plasmid to plasmid. Three steps. First is take the fragment, okay, then map the fragment with restriction enzymes first. Okay, so once we have mapped it, then treat again with the restriction enzymes. So now in the second step, it will be broken down into smaller pieces, isn't it? So when you treat with restriction enzymes, so once the restriction enzymes they are treated and they are broken into smaller pieces, now those fragments which are generated there, they are cloned in cosmic vector. Okay, and that's how you make a cosmic library for all the fragments which are there from back. Is it clear,
Yes, sir.
Balaji?
Yes, sir. Yes.
The same procedure is repeated again. We take a cosmic clone. First, we generate a restriction map. Second, we break them, this cosmic clone, into smaller pieces using the restriction enzymes, and then take each of the fragments and then clone in plasmid. And thus, a plasmid library is created. Clear now?
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay, so the main disadvantage or limitation of this method is we were able to trace back from sequences to plasmid, from plasmid to cosmid, from cosmid to back. Okay, but we were stopped at this random fragments here, and we were not able to map them into complete genome, but we were able to prepare the back clones for this genome. So with this limitation, people thought, okay, if you're not able to assemble the complete genome from the sequences, then we had a problem. Okay. So the second method was developed, and this actually this whole story was there actually with, while sequencing the human genome. Okay, so people were able to get through back libraries of human genome, but were not able to assemble back into the human genome into 23 chromosomes. Okay, so at that moment, another person who was also a part of that human genome sequencing project, known as Craig Venter, he came out of the project and he developed a new method for sequencing this. Okay, so first whatever he thought is, okay, so as we're not having any map, we are not able to trace back. So the first thing what he told is, we'll generate a map initially and then start sequencing. Okay, so this method is now is on a systematic, because from the step one we are trying to be, we're trying to link the genome with the libraries. Okay, so what they've done is, we know that previously we have learned that if you want to link genome with the fragments with genomic library with the chromosome, we are using some chromosome walking or chromosome jumping technique. Okay, so they thought, okay, first we'll map the genome completely and then generate the fragments. Once it is done, then we can do the same, repeat the same procedure. Okay, and this they named it as hierarchical, because hierarchical means where there is a systematic way of doing certain things in a hierarchy. Okay, so the second method here, what they have used is hierarchical genome sequencing method, and it was known as top to down sequencing. So we know what is a top thing and how each fragment in the towards the down is done. So this is known as top to down approach. Okay, so in this top to down approach, first a low resolution physical map of the genome is done. Okay, a low resolution physical map. We already know what are the methods which are used for generating the physical map. So in physical map, there are again three methods what we have learned previously, that is chromosome map. Okay, second one is radiation hybrid map, and third one we known as sequence map. Okay, so the first one of them is chromosome walking or chromosome jumping. So chromosome mapping is done using these two techniques, and what Craig Venter has done is he first used chromosome walking and chromosome jumping to generate a approximate physical map, that is a low resolution map. It's not accurate. Okay, an appropriate physical map of the genome. Once the map was generated, then they started sequencing. So from this, the minimum number of fragments that cover the entire chromosome are selected for sequencing. Okay, in this way, sequencing an assembly of a complete genome is possible. So this was the advantage which was provided, which was not there with previous method, which is known as shotgun genome sequencing. And now mostly hierarchical genome sequencing strategy is followed. Okay, hierarchical genome sequencing strategy is followed to sequence the genome. Now, what are the steps here?
Sir.
Okay, welcome back again. So there was a power cut here. So I'm joined now. Just wait. Okay, so the steps what we have in hierarchical genome sequencing is nothing but the first step here is first generate a physical map for the entire genome. Okay, using chromosome walking and chromosome. It's not either. We use both of them, chromosome walking and chromosome jumping technique, to generate the physical map of the entire genome. Now, once we generate the physical map, so the logic lies here. Okay, so what is the length of the human genome? Gunadeepak?
3 billion base.
I'm not able to hear.
3.2 billion.
In base.
3.2 billion base.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then, if we want to generate, a fragment, what is the appropriate number which is required here? 3.2 billion base. Any one of you know what is the size of a back vector? I mean, holding capacity of a back vector. Any one of you know it? What is the holding capacity of the back vector?
No, sir.
Yes.
No, sir.
Don't know? At least you know what is the back vector? Okay, what are the other vectors that we have here? Apart from back, bacterial artificial chromosome.
Fungal
What are the other vectors?
There, yak,
artificial chromosome.
yeast artificial chromosome.
Yes, yak is artificial chromosome. Then another one, PSC. What is PSC?
Plasmid artificial clone.
Plasmid. No, it is not plasmid. Guys, okay, or phage artificial chromosome. It is derived from bacteria phage. Okay, what is the appropriate size here? It is nearly 150 to 350 kilo base pairs. That means in bases, what is the size? Kilo base pairs means 1000. So it is now nearly 350,000 bases of the fragment which can be sequenced. I mean, which can be cloned. Okay, when it's plasmid, it's just only maximum 600 base pairs. But when coming to bacterial artificial chromosomes, nearly 350,000 bases, kilo base pairs. Okay, 350,000 bases can be generated. So that much size can be cloned in this bag. So yeast will be much more than that. Okay, yeast artificial chromosome or fungal artificial chromosomes, they'll be much higher than this. So that means we can accommodate nearly how much? When you convert to Indian numbers, that is 350,000 bases approximately. 350,000 bases. So that is the approximate size for a bag vector. Now our human size is 3.2 billion. So if we break them into several pieces, what is the appropriate size we require here? So 3.2 billion by 350,000 bases. That is a number we have to calculate. Then approximately 3 lakh fragments will be generated from this. 3 lakh fragments will be generated from this. So that is actual calculation what they have done. Now, why did they do this calculation? So what is their idea about doing this? The idea is that if we can at least find one overlapping region between one fragment in the library. Okay, so at least 2 clones in that library should have one overlapping end. With that motto, they generated 3 lakh fragments. Okay, 3 lakh fragments of bag for generating a bag library. Okay, so once they generated, again they started repeating the same process what we have seen with shotgun. Clone them in bag, again clone them in cosmet, and clone them in plasmid, and then sequence. Okay, so cloning of generated fragments in appropriate vector is the next one, and then sequencing clones or subclones using chain termination method of DNA sequencing or by Sanger sequencing. Okay, so there are 4 steps when coming to hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. The first one is generate the physical map of the entire genome using either chromosome walking and chromosome jumping technique. Then generate approximately 3 lakh fragments from genome of the organism. Then cloning of generated fragments in the appropriate vectors. Then sequencing clones or subclones using chain termination method of DNA sequencing or Sanger sequencing method. Okay, so these are the 4 steps what we have. So the first step is generate a physical map of the entire genome using chromosome walking or chromosome jumping. So we already seen what is chromosome walking or chromosome jumping in the previous lecture. So with that, first we generate a physical map of the entire genome. So once the physical map is ready, the second step is what we do is we take the genome DNA Okay, and here we apply again the same mechanical pressure here and get a fragments. But here there are nearly 3 lakh bases. Back library size is nearly 3 lakh fragments. So whatever these fragments here, they are nearly 3 lakh. Okay, so once we have this thing, then the step here is cloning of the randomly generated fragments in appropriate vectors. So we have fragments which are actually first used to prepare a back library. This back library is used to prepare a plasmid library. This plasmid library is used to prepare a plasmid library, and this plasmid library is actually used for DNA sequencing. Okay. So in that, we said that there are 3 steps here. So step 3.1 here is generation of back library from random fragments. And step 2 here is generation of plasmid library from each back clone. And step 3 here is generation of plasmid or bacteriophage library from each plasmid cosmid. Okay. So now what do we do in each step? So coming to 3.2 here, so what we do is we take a back clone from the back library, which is mapped with restriction enzymes. Okay, so the first step is when you want to generate a back library, the first step what is required there is first take each fragment, then map it with restriction enzymes. Okay, then take each fragment and treat with restriction enzymes to generate fragments. Then take each fragment and clone it in cosmid vector. So with this, a cosmid library is prepared. Now the same step is repeated here. So we take each cosmid clone, map it with restriction enzymes, then cosmid clone is treated with restriction enzymes to generate fragments. Then each fragment is cloned in plasmid or bacteriophage, which then creates a library which is known as plasmid or bacteriophage library. Okay. So once the plasmid or bacteriophage library is there, then we take each plasmid or bacteriophage clone to sequence it. Okay. So what we're doing, we have taken a genome map, then we generate a restriction, first a physical map, then after the physical map is generated, then we apply a mechanical shearing, then we generate random fragments. From them we take each fragment and make a back library. From the back library we take each fragment and prepare a plasmid library. From plasmid library we take each fragment and we prepare a plasmid library. And from plasmid, each plasmid clone will be taken and will be sequenced using Sanger's method. Okay, so this is what is known as hierarchy. So there is a systematic approach from first step to last step, and if you want to trace it back, we can easily trace it now. Okay, so this clone is actually traced back to plasmid. Now the plasmid is actually traced back to cosmid, and this cosmid is actually traced back to back, and this back clone is traced back to genome with the help of a restriction map or the physical map. Okay, and now we are able to achieve a complete genome assembly using this hierarchy. Okay, so using these 2 methods we could start a sequence, and now we know that the genome sequencing can be done. So Craig Venter has shortened the sequencing of genome by 11 years. The first initial human genome sequencing project took nearly 11 years to get back to the assembly, but they were not able to get the complete assembly. But Craig Venter, what he has done is, he has used this hierarchical method and he shortened the life, and within 1 year he was able to do this whole human genome sequencing. So immediately the second human genome report or thing was done within 2 years for complete assembly, and it shortened nearly 11 years of time. Okay, and this is the advantage of hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. Okay. So all of you on your videos?
Current is also
So we have seen there two methods now. First one is shotgun genome sequencing, and second one is hierarchical genome sequencing. Okay, so these two methods are used here for genome sequencing. And a third method is there, which is known as uh, high throughput genome sequencing, which is completely automated genome sequencing. Okay, we just give the genome DNA directly, and you get your DNA sequence read. That's all. So the machine takes care entirely of the breaking them into libraries and getting the fragments and giving you the raw bag libraries or raw sequences. So that we'll see in the later session, I mean in the next session. But for today, we have to learn what is actually the last step, nothing but DNA sequencing. Okay, so without understanding DNA sequencing, your genome sequencing strategy is not completed. Okay, so for today we'll see what is chain combination method of DNA sequencing or Sanger's DNA sequencing. So before getting into that, sir, Sanger sequencing method, we'll take a 5 minutes break and we'll come back at 10:40. Okay, so we'll meet at around 10:40. So come
Yes.
back sharp 10:40. Okay, so all of you back here. Okay then. So we'll continue with the session now. So I said that the last fragment which is generated in the either in the hierarchical genome sequencing or in the shotgun genome sequencing is actually subjected to DNA sequencing, nothing but by using a Sanger's method. Okay, the routine one which is used now is Sanger's method. But there were two methods which were available earlier. First one is Sanger's method, and the second one is Maxwell Gilbert method, and both of them were used for DNA sequencing. And they were actually the first methods which were known for sequencing the genome, we should say. Okay, so sequencing an entire genome actually is a complex task, what we know. So first, this requires breaking up of the DNA in the genome into smaller pieces, and that is what we have done with genome sequencing strategies. Okay, either by shotgun genome sequencing or by hierarchical genome sequencing. What we have done is we have broke the genome into smaller pieces. Okay, and then we have assembled the sequence into long one. So DNA sequencing requires this, but there are many methods which are available at this moment, and genome sequencing is much faster and less expensive. Okay, much faster and less expensive. Now, I think people knew it when the first project was done. It was nearly $300 billion for the human genome sequencing project cost. And now you can get your human genome sequence. Your DNA can be isolated and sequenced at just 1.5 lakhs at this moment. Okay, so that is a cost which has come down. So with this, you can understand that the genome sequence has become much faster and less expensive. And coming to time, you know that initially it took 12 years Later, it took nearly 1 to 2 years, and now the time is just 2 to 3 days. Okay, it's just 2 to 3 days maximum. It may take you for 1 month if you require an extensive analysis of your report, genome report. Okay, so this is the uh, advantage with the human DNA sequencing. Okay, now what is actually DNA sequencing? Okay, so DNA sequencing is something, but we try to determine the nucleotides which are present in the piece of DNA. Whatever piece of DNA which is given to you, in that piece of DNA, we try to see what are the nucleotide bases which are present. And we know there are 4 types of nucleotide bases, I think, but A's, T's, C's, and G's. The N9, okay, the thymine, cytosine, and guanine. So these are the nucleotides which are present in the DNA and the piece of DNA, and we try to determine the sequence, that is the order of these nucleotides in the given piece of DNA. Okay, and the right equipment of materials and sequencing a short piece of DNA is relatively straightforward at this moment. Okay, so the right equipment, and so right equipment means nothing but for sequencing the DNA, at this moment we have Illumina 3 sequencing machine. Okay, and there are many others also. At this moment, Nanopore mission which is there, which actually gives you the highest resolution map. That is, you can get all your genome sequence according to the chromosomes and arrange them at a constant. If you can go through Nanopore sequencing. Okay, Nanopore sequencing methodology. So we'll see what are the other methods what we have and other things. At this moment, just remember that there are 2 sequencing methods which are available: Sanger sequencing method and Maxwell-Gilbert sequencing method. Okay, Sanger sequencing method and Maxwell-Gilbert sequencing method. Now, Sanger sequencing method is also known as chain termination method. Now, how do you sequence this? Just by terminating the chain. Okay, and that's why it is known as chain termination method. So, how did he develop this Sanger, and what did he do here? So, Sanger has developed a method which is actually automated cycle. Okay, automated cycle sequencing reactions which are today. So, the automated cycle sequencing reactions are nothing but here PCR. So in PCR we have 3 steps. We know that the first step is we take DNA, we denature it, then we add a primer, we allow it to anneal, okay, and then we extend that after annealing. So these are the 3 steps. So these 3 steps are actually used here when DNA is being sequenced. Okay. So how did these methods develop? So approximately in 1980s, there were 2 different methods which were taken by 2 groups. Okay, one is by Sanger's group, another one is by Maxwell-Gilbert. Both of them believe that the entire genome can be sequenced, and they started sequencing, but they ended up in sequencing short fragments. Okay, they ended up in sequencing short fragments. So at that moment, Sanger has actually used a method which is based on PCR, because by that time, Caramolis has developed a PCR machine, and that PCR is widely used for making copies of the DNA. And that method was exploited to sequence the DNA piece. Okay, so the first was a technique called Polymerase chain reaction that enabled many copies of DNA sequence to be quickly and accurately available. Okay, then the second method was also developed by Sanger for this, and that is nothing but method of DNA sequence built upon chemistry of PCR and sequencing process. Okay, it is based on chemistry of PCR, and this was actually developed in 1977. Okay, and later that method was actually adopted by Applied Biosystems, and the first commercial machine came out from this. And why we are learning Sanger sequencing, because it has been there for more than 40 years. It has become the only method and the only technique which was used for sequencing the genome. Okay. So here, what was done here is regions of DNA up to 900 base pairs in length are routinely sequenced using this method. Okay, but only 600 base, the accuracy of sequencing the DNA using Sanger's method is maximum up to 600 base pairs. After 600 base pairs, there can be an error. And human genome sequencing has actually used the Sanger sequencing method for determining the sequences from small fragments, which are the end. Okay, and these fragments were aligned to see the overlapping, and they were mapped entirely with the chromosomes. So, how did Sanger start sequencing, and how did he got this idea actually? Okay. This idea was actually based on Arthur Kornberg's work on DNA replication, where he has identified an enzyme, DNA polymerase. Okay, and one of the DNA polymerase, which has seen the subunit, which can freely polymerase the reaction. So based on this information, Sanger has developed a DNA sequencing method. Okay, and that enzyme is actually polymerizing at high temperatures. Polymerizing at high temperatures, and Sanger sequencing involves many copies of target DNA, and we have different ingredients. Okay, so what are all the different ingredients, and how the DNA sequencing is? Okay, we'll see in detail in the next session, but at this moment we'll you can see. Just learn what are the minimum requirements which are there. So if you can see here, what are all the required things for a DNA sequencing? The first thing what we require is DNA polymerase enzyme. Okay. The next step is a primer, which is a short piece of single-stranded DNA that binds to the template DNA and acts as a starter from the polymerase. Okay. So we require a polymerase enzyme, we require a primer. Then we require 4 DNA nucleotides, nothing but ATP, TTP, and CTP and GTP. So that is deoxy, ATP, deoxy, TTP, deoxy, CTP, and deoxy, GTP. So we also require all these 4 nucleotides. At the same time, we require a template DNA to copy. Okay, so we have a template DNA, and then we use that template DNA to copy this. Okay, so these are the minimum requirements if we want to perform a DNA sequencing. What are they? First one is DNA polymerase, second one is a primer, third one is a different types of 4 DNA nucleotides, and fifth one is a template DNA to be sequenced. And what is the main important thing here? So apart from these ingredients, there is a main other important ingredient which is known as dideoxynucleotide. Okay, dideoxynucleotide. So there is actually a group which is missing there in the deoxynucleotide. So while that group is missing, it will not allow the chain to continue. That is, termination occurs whenever there is that nucleotide is particularly added there. Okay, so the main ingredient here is nothing but a Sanger sequencing reaction contains a unique ingredient that is nothing but dideoxy or chain terminating versions of all 4 nucleotides: D-ATP, D-TTP, D-CTP, and D-GTP. Each labeled with a different color of dye. Okay, so we have a different color dye also, which is added to each of these nucleotides. Okay, so what are the ingredients? First one is polymerase enzyme, second one is primer, third one are 4 DNA nucleotides, fourth one is DNA template, and fifth one is nothing but the dideoxynucleotide with the label, colored label. So what is the difference between a normal DNTP and a dideoxynucleotide? Okay, so are you able to see the image here, the right side?
Yes, sir.
So,
Okay. So the below one in the image, which is the deoxynucleotide. So you can see here OH group here. Okay. In the same way, if you go above, this is a dideoxynucleotide, and the O is missing here. It's only H. So when this is missing, you know how our DNA is there. You might have to learn in biomolecules, in nucleic acids. You might have already learned. So when this is missing, the chain will not connect. That this will actually terminate your DNA replication. Okay, so this is a step which is used here. So dideoxynucleotides are similar to regular or deoxynucleotides, but one of the key differences, they lack a hydroxyl group on the 3' carbon of the sugar. So in a regular nucleotide, the 3 hydroxyl group acts as a hook, allowing a new nucleotide to be coming and attaching to the existing chain. So when this is there, this O is removed, then that will not allow the second nucleotide to come and add. Okay, so this is the main difference, and this is actually the main principle which is used by Sanger's DNA sequencing. So instead of using DNTPs, when a DDNTP is added, automatically the chain will terminate there. So once it is terminated, the reaction will not there, and so the last nucleotide is actually the nucleotide in the. So how do you determine that? We'll see now. So the 5' carbon of the incoming direct nucleus is joined with the 3' carbon at the end, what we have already known in the nucleic acid receptor. Okay. So hydroxyl groups in each position form a acyl linkages with the central phosphate. In this way, the nucleotide chain elongates. So the key to Sanger sequencing method is the chemistry of dideoxynucleotides. Is the DDNTP is incorporated in the chain, forming a linkage. Okay, and this will actually dominate. So the DDNTP lacks a 3' hydroxyl group necessary to form the linkage with an incoming nucleotide. So the addition of the DDNTP halts elongation. So this is what I previously explained. So what is the method what we have? Okay, how many, do you have a next class? Do you have any class today now? Continuing? Yes or no?
So we have it at 1.
Out at 1? Okay, I just require another 5 minutes or so. So to complete. So what Sanger have done is he has taken 4 different test tubes like this, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, to sequence. So each test tube is actually a different reaction tube. Okay. So to sequence DNA, 4 separate reactions are necessary. One to provide sequence information about each of the nucleotide. So assume here the first one is up for A, the second one is for C, the third one is for T, and the fourth one is for G. Okay, each one is for each nucleotide. That is the first step here. So take 4 tubes for 4 different reactions. Now in each tube add commonly all of them, template DNA, short primer, DNA polymerase, and 4 DNTPs. But in each tube, particularly you have to add only one type of DDNTP, that is A, T, C, G, and T. Okay, like here. if it is A tube reaction, we have to add only DDATP. Okay. If it is C tube, we have to add only DDCTP. If it is T tube, we have to add only DDTTP. And if it is G tube, we have to add only DDGTP. That is the only ingredient which is different, but all the ingredients are same. So what are they? Template DNA, short primer, DNA polymerase, 4 DNTPs are common for all, but the addition of A, T, C, G are different. Okay, dideoxynucleotide is different. So once it's added, what happens here is we heat the mixture. So we added in a test tube and the mixture is heated. We know that once the mixture is heated, the template DNA will be separating. It's known as denaturation. So once the denature, a primer which is added already will come and bind to the template. Okay, and this will allow the chain reaction to occur. So what happens here is once the primer is added, the polymerase will be in a position to add DNTPs. So each time when the DNTPs are added, the reaction continues, and each time when the DDP and TPs are added, the reaction terminates. Okay, so in this way, the chain termination occurs. So in this sequencing example, if DDATP, which is with purple color, labeled with purple color as terminated reaction, then the DATP happens to be the reactive tracer, which has no effect. Okay, so here we can see the primer is added and terminated here. Okay, and you can see here the reaction is continuing. So once the polymerase chain reaction has occurred and terminated, you can see here I've said the purple color is A. So you can see here several purple colors of A at the end where the chain is terminated and the reaction has occurred. There are several things. Okay, so you will have several copies like this which are generated in Sanger's method. Okay. Now what we do is each reaction is actually loaded into a separate layer of gel. I think you people are aware of page gel, polyacrylamide gel.
Yes, sir.
Electrophorus. Okay, so we use that method here to separate each of them in 4. So first lane will take A, second lane will take T, third lane will take C, and fourth lane will take G. Okay, 4 reactions in 4 lanes, and each lane you try to add it in this page gel. So you prepare a page gel and each lane you add each of the reaction. So once that is done, we know what happens in electrophoresis. They are separated based on the fragment size. Okay, so once they are separated based on the fragment size, we expose this gel to a film, X-ray film, and once the X-ray film is exposed, you can see here there will be different. So each one is added, and this is the gel what you see. Okay, so 4 lanes, 4 bands, 4 lanes of bands which are separated in page gel. Okay, so this is the image of the auto radiogram of the page gel. Now the next step here is to derive this one. So once this is done, so I think I have to tell you how to derive it. I'll tell you in the next class. So this is how we separate it. Okay, so once you separate it, we try to deduce the sequence from this. Okay, so we'll see how we are reducing the sequence from this gel in the next class. Okay, so any doubts in this Sanger's method?
No, sir.
Others? No doubt. Okay, then we'll continue in the next class with this
Yes, sir.
topic. Okay, thank you.
Okay, sir.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Thank you, sir.
So still
Afternoon, sir.
20 members have come. Even not 20 members, 18 members. Still 11 plus 2. 13 members are not come still. Goodness. Okay, so in the previous session we have learned about hierarchical genome sequencing and how DNA sequencing is done by Sanger's method. And in Sanger's method, we have stopped here at interpreting the Sanger sequence from the Sanger's gel. This is where we have stopped in the previous class. Okay, so let us first review what is Sanger's method, and then we will move on to. So in Sanger's method, what we do is we add all these ingredients in a test tube, that is DNA polymerase enzyme, primer, 4 DNTPs, and template DNA to the sequence, along with the dideoxy nucleotide, which is known as chain terminating version, that is DDATP, DDTTP, DDCTP, and DDGTP, along with the color dye. Okay, so this is the difference between the DDNTP and DDGTP. There is a moiety which is difference here. Okay, so in DDNTP only hydroxyl group is there, and in DNTP there is a hydroxyl group, and in DDNTP there is only hydrogen group at this portion, and this is the only difference. Due to this difference, the chain elongation will not occur in the DNA. This is what we have seen here. So when we run these on a gel, okay, so we arrive at this conclusion. So for the 4 test tubes like this, we have 4 lanes. Okay, so now this nucleotide says that this is A, all these are A's, all these are C's, all these are T's, and all these are G's. Okay, so you can see here the top 2 are the T's. You can see here in T column, the top 2 are T's are there. So T and T. And next you can see the next nucleotide here is G here. Okay, so G has come. So next is C. So C is there. And next is A. So A is there. The correspondingly, according to the band size, we are reading from top to bottom. Okay, bottom is the 3' end here. Okay, and up is the 5' end. So this is the 5' end position, and this is the 3' end position. So when we move in this direction and look, then you can see this is the nucleotide what we have. Read this. Okay, so now what I've done is you can see here, this is how we try to derive the sequence. So this lane is actually corresponding to T, this lane is corresponding to G, this lane is corresponding to C, and this lane is corresponding to A. So we are trying to read the nucleotides in the order, and we get this. So when you read this, this is actually the sequence which is derived. So from the gel, you can read that the sequence is this, and in this way, people started understanding that this is the DNA sequence which is present in that sample, and the maximum sample size which is right is 600 base pairs like this without errors. With errors also there is a possibility, and maximum we can go up to 900 base pairs for a plasmid DNA sequence or a phage DNA sequence. Okay, so is it clear to all of you how we derive this? Yes or no?
Sir.
Yes, sir.
So all of you on your videos now? So how many of you have gone through the Coursera now? Coursera. All on your videos. How many of you have gone through the Coursera? First module in Coursera. Have you done that? No?
Just registered, sir.
Just registered. I asked you to go through that. At least you should know what is actually there in the syllabus. How many of you have registered? Still I have not seen you people registering fully. I only got some 16 out of 31. 50% have not registered still now. The rest of the 50% should complete the registration by today at any cost. Okay? And this same gel, whatever I've shown you now, how to derive the sequence from that gel, I'll be giving you. Each one will get a unique sequence of gel for you. Okay? In your assignment. Each one. You have to write down the sequence. For that, reduce the sequence and give it to me, submit as an assignment. Is it clear? 1 week time will be given for this. So any doubts that how did you, how can we derive that sequence? Anyone is having doubts there? All of you first on your videos. Yes or no?
Yes,
Are
sir.
you clear with your deriving the sequence, or do you want me to demonstrate it once more now?
Sir, explain once again,
Sir,
sir.
once again. It's better.
Okay, so I'll explain it once again. Just carefully listen to it. Then you can go through the assignment. Okay. So
Sir.
in the assignment, you have to derive that nucleotide sequence based on the gel I give you. Okay. Each one will get your own gel. 33 people will get their own gels. No one will have a unique thing. Okay. No similar gel will be given to all. I'll give you 33 different versions of gels. Each one have to derive your own sequence and submit it online. Okay, within 1 week. This is the first assignment I'm going to give you. Okay.
Sir.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
So whatever I gave you is just gel here. So carefully listen here. So there are 4 samples here and we have 4 lanes here. So each lane will correspond to one sample. So G lane is this one. I showed you an arrow. Okay. T lane is this one. And C lane is this one. and A lane is this one. So 4 lanes we have, A, C, T, G. Each one is a separate reaction here. Okay. So what we're doing is we are counting that from top to bottom. Okay. So how do we read a sequence? Do you read the sequence as 5' to 3' or 3' to 5'? This one here. Do
3
you
prime
read
to
it as
5 prime, sir.
3' to 5' or 5' to 3'?
3
Generally,
prime
what?
to 5 prime, sir.
Okay, it is 3' to 5'. So the 5' end is below and 3' end is this one. Okay, sorry. 5' end is this and 3' end is this. Okay.
Yes,
Now,
sir.
so you can see here at 5' and the first nucleotide is T, what we have derived. So if you look at the lane here, T is the first, in T lane, the first band is there. And the second band is also T here. So you can see here T is there. So there are 2 bands in T. So first, so then the next band is in G lane. So the third one is G here. Now, after G, the next band is in C. So next band is C. Now, after that, the next band is in A. So the next band is A. So if you try to deduce one by one in each lane in an order, then you try to. So it is C here, again, then it is C and C. Okay, then it is A, then it is G, again A, G, then it is A, it is then T, G, T. Okay, so if you can see that the same sequence is right here. Okay, so this is how you try to derive the sequence. So is it clear to you now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So again, we have another method, which is actually an automated method. This is a manual method what people have initially done, and now there is another method which is going on actually, where we will get that nucleotide directly without going through the gel. Now, how are we getting that? Okay, so the process is just repeating and capturing that nucleotide wherever the termination is there. Okay, so the process of replication is repeated a number of cycles. So when the nucleotide is actually incorporated, reaction stops, and we know that that reaction will have that nucleotide. Okay, so with this nucleotide, the end can be read in a capillary gel tube, which is here. So how it is read in a capillary gel tube? Okay, so this is the primer. Then we added DD and TPS with the probes, and when the chain termination occurred, this you can see this is the chain termination, and you can see here all these samples can be added in a single tube. You can see here single tube now. That is in single lane they are run. What are the single lane? This is the capillary gel electrophoresis. Now previously what we have done here is we have used 4 different lanes. Okay, so what was the difficulty you faced now when you are going through these 4 different lanes? What was the difficulty? Anyone in the class?
We have to
Consequently read
add.
it, sir.
Have to? Yes.
We have to add in every test tube. We have to add different
Yes.
regarding
We have to
those
make 4 different reactions.
compositions.
But that is okay, fine. But the thing here is it is not 4 different reactions. Running them in 4 different lanes and reducing the sequence from those 4 different lanes was the first difficulty what people have encountered. Because if it is for just, how many nucleotides is this? 3, 3, 3, 9, 12, 15 and 18. For this 18 nucleotides only we are confusing ourselves. And we know that a gel sequence minimum is 600 base pairs if you want to derive a sequence. So imagine you are running a gel or reading a gel like this for 600 base pairs. What would be the difficulty? Okay, so there's a lots of difficulty. So what people thought is, okay, if you have a single layer, it would be very easy for us to run. So what they've done is they have improved. So use 4 different colors for 4 different nucleotides. That was done and run in a single lane. So single lane means what they have done is they have taken a capillary tube like a burette what you have, or you can say like your pipette, whatever pipette is there, it will be of the same size. In that you load a gel. Okay, so when you load the gel and just keep it in the electrophoresis chamber, that will try to run from top to bottom, and this is how all the 4 samples will be loaded. 4 different samples will be loaded in a single column like this. So this is the single column, and this single column we have all the samples. Now how do we read it? Okay, once it's separated, you can see here 4 different colors. For T it is red, for C it is blue, for A it is green, and for G it is purple. Can you see those colors? Whatever which are attached to those NTPs, DD NTPs. Okay, dideoxy nucleotides we have. The same colors are actually reflected here. You can see here, this is blue, red, green. Okay, in the same way they are colors, purple. So all the 4 colors you can see here. So once they are run, this capillary tube actually gives a color. Now the next problem here is how we will read that. How we will read that capillary tube. So what is actually happening in the capillary tube? It's a continuous process. You add and it comes down. So you can see here, there is a laser here and there is a detector here. Okay, there is a laser here and a detector. So what is happening here? The laser actually passes some light onto the capillary tube. So when it passes, it excites, the laser excites this color here, this fluorescence color here, and that color will be excited. So whatever color is excited, if it is red, then a red color will be emitted. If it's a blue, then a blue color will be emitted. If it's a green, then green color will be emitted. So when they are passing like this, laser will be falling on that, and this light will be emitted, and this will be captured by this detector. Okay, this will be captured like from the detector. Okay, this is not a sophisticated technology. This is very simple technology. Okay, so the detector is actually the CC cameras what we use. Okay, and this gel is what the objects what are moving before the camera. Okay, so when the object is moving, it is captured by the CC camera. The same implementation is done here. Okay, so the object is nothing but the capillary tube. So once this is detected, the particular color that will be found. So these colors, what are excited there, the peaks, the excited color will be recorded as chromatogram. You can see here different colors of chromatograms are there in the below. Okay, so each color when excited will give a peak with each unique color. That unique color, the program will read these unique colors, which is called as base calling programs. Okay, we call the base based on the chromatogram. So chromato means color, gram means a recorded information. So chromatograms is a colorful recorded information which is present for the sequence. And the program which is used here to retrieve the information is known as base call program. Base call program, what does it do is, it reads the chromatogram and gives the particular color. Okay, so the chromatogram, if it is green, then the color is A. Okay, if the chromatogram it is red, then the color is T. So in this way it is. Now that simple 4-lane methodology is driven into automatic and automatic detection of this sequence. Now this is completely automated version. Okay, so now this is a new version what we have from Sangers, and now this Sangers method has changed a lot. And okay, but that was the previous manual method, and this was the automated method. So are you clear with this now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this has made our work easy, and so the speed of the sequencing the DNA sequences have increased. Okay, so what is the limitation here? So limitation is, if you want a high quality sequence, maximum you can go up to 900 base pairs, but the high quality regions are only even up to 900 base pairs. We can get up to 600 base pairs. Okay, up to 600 base pairs. Now, what is the limitation? Second limitation for that. Quality is the first limitation, and second limitation is that it is typically used to sequence individual pieces of DNA than the chromosome, such as plasmids or PCR products. So whatever we amplify in PCR, those can be sequenced here. Or whatever we clone in plasmids or bacteriophages, those can be sequenced here. Okay, so this is the limitation, and this is the use. Okay, so in short, what we have learned here is, we have learned that there are principles for fragmentation and sequencing in this whole genome sequencing strategy. There are 3 methods, breaking them into small pieces. First step, what is the second step here? Then cloning, and then sequencing the clones. Okay, and then we have 2 different methods, that is shotgun genome sequencing strategy and hierarchical genome sequencing strategy. So whatever 2 strategies we can use, we get end product as sequence, which is present in plasmid or bacteriophage, and that bacteriophage has to be sequenced. And I just shown you how we are sequencing using the Sangers method, and how a Sangers manual sequencing method is there, and how a Sangers advanced sequencing method is there. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So this is the summary of genome sequencing strategy. So is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
So now we have seen how a genome can be sequenced, and out of 3 methods, shotgun genome sequencing strategy, hierarchical genome sequencing strategy, and high throughput sequencing, genome sequencing, I have given you only 2 methods. Okay, and we have a 3rd method, which is nothing but high throughput genome sequencing. But before getting into the high throughput genome sequencing, we should first understand what are the all genome sequencing technologies which are available, and then only you can understand what is high throughput genome sequencing. Okay, so here I'll end the session with this, that we have learned about genome sequencing strategies. So before learning high throughput genome sequencing strategy, we have to learn what is actually the technology which is available for sequencing these genomes now. I mean, what are the technologies which are available? Okay, so now we'll take a short break, and we'll come back after 5 minutes. I mean, 4:37 we'll come back. Okay, and then we'll continue with the technologies which are available for genome sequencing. Is it clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll meet at 4:37 again back. Okay. So